Here we re-met. The Metropolitan Museum of Art of New York City is the largest art museum in the Western Hemisphere. Its permanent collection contains over 2 million works, divided among 17 curatorial departments. The main building at 1000 Fifth Avenue along the Museum Mile on the eastern edge of Central Park on Manhattan's Upper East Side, is by area one of the world's largest art museums. The Metropolitan Museum of Art was founded in 1870 with its mission to bring art and art education to the American people. The Met maintains extensive holdings of African, Asian, Oceanian, Byzantine, and Islamic art. The Fifth Avenue building opened on February 20, 1872, at 681 Fifth Avenue. The Met is never one building but an accretion of multiple buildings that have been annexed and extended within the history of the expansionist institution. While lacking the heterogeneity of architecture, the gigantic size and rigid circulative paths deliver a bad visitation experience. It aims to create an emerged atmosphere as an encyclopedia of artifacts. However, the notion of huge storage isn't friendly to its visitors. The Met is a collection of exoticism, a colonial apparatus that relentlessly acquires, exhibits, and narrates fragments from non-Western cultures. However, the inherent incommensurability of these fragments of the others is reduced, if not altogether erased, in convenience for a story of multiculturalism. To decolonize the Met in architectural terms is to discern the spatial syntax of the colonial institution that perpetually afford reductive story of historical differences. The Met is located between the city and the park while not belonging to neither of them. It can be read as an invasion into the Central Park, or an urban enclave of the noisy Fifth Avenue. It is an interface between two different ways of shaping our city. The Met needs to redefine itself as its role playing in the city and the hard border inserting into the neighborhood. To address these arguments, from the proposal of the Fun Palace to the Centre Pompidou, the argument is landed on rethinking and regenerating the conventional sense of visitation and homiletic way of exhibition, in which the key means include transparency, affinity, and accessibility. It's not easy to say that the Met provides a great spatial experience, neither from ordinary visitors nor the point of view of institutional critique. The museum presents magnificent dimensions and the sense of classic elegancy, while the perception of the appreciation can be easily puzzled by the layer of the layers, the room of the rooms, which makes it hard to, as argued by Baudrillard, provoke thoughts and reorganize spaces. The main strategies of the project aim to generate the new circulation of visitation that overlays/disrupts/penetrates the colonial institution and renew Met's interstitial relationship with the urban context, and the park deconstruction is never a purpose but an approach. First, fragmentize the museum into segments of entities for the dissolution of a museological monolith that has always been a myth. The gaps opened up serve as corridors as integral parts of the new circulation. Next, in order to rethink the responsibility of the world's biggest art institute, with the world's largest exhibition showcased, the Met should be also the world's biggest hub to rewrite the history of exhibition, by challenging the superiority of being an art institute itself. The archive of the museum will be also exhibited, which will be integrated inside the archival towers. The towers stand on the very position from the Met's non-public arts collection storage on its ground floor, and showcase layers of artifacts, shelves, and art maintenance tools to the visitors. They can be unprepared, unpolished, but they are given new meanings in this bizarre space. The challenge also aims to reverse the conventional way of the definition of the museum. The reconstruction focuses on its concentration of the space instead of its bigness of the space. The strategy is to remove and refocus. In the process of merging and blurring the border of the city, museum, and the park, certain volumes are removed, and a transmitter is attached. It's the new roof of the Met, which provides the rigid building with the variation of the space. It's the new landscape, which breaks the hard borders and connects to nature. It's also the tribune, that generates a new relationship between the museum and the park. During the new visit, the engagement is generated from both sides of the Met. The new lobbies offer the first impression, which interconnects the Fifth Avenue, the body of the museum, and the Central Park. The transmission of the view becomes the new lobby to each of them. The cross lobbies enter from the street level and lead the visitors directly to the originally half-opened ground floor of the Met. Visitors will pass by the original columns from 19th century and make their choice where to start the visitation or just go across. The terrace creates new events. The new terraces are the new stages and new frames for the panoramic view of the Central Park. The large glass frames both the outside scenery and the inside visitors' movement. With the constant visiting going on, the museum become an ever-changing painting of the city. Following the lead of the new accesses, the space will guide visitors to the top of the museum, where the platforms can arrive at different sections of the museum. The corridors in between detach the halls apart and dissolve the volume of the original museum of the museums. They ease the pain of walking a Met marathon by layering a dramatic experience to the transmission between the halls. The park and the city are montaged and reintroduced inside. As the extension of the new lobbies, the events of visitation expand the footprints into the park. The landscape of the museum merges to the landscape of the park, which gradually turn the space to a botanical garden. Beneath the iceberg of the Met, an overflow tunnel for the reservoir was constructed in 19th century, which have already lost its function but remained its existence as a non-perpendicular space in the Met building. It's the infrastructural archive of the Met, and it will be reused as an exhibition space to evoke the memory of the city. The Remet is a reunion between its visitor and their visitation, between the artifacts and their origin. The Remet lands on the context and conceptualizes the new context, and contextualizes the concept of a museum of contrast in transparency, an opposition to homiletics, the elegancy of affinity.